One of the most important things you can do to improve the energy efficiency of your home is to get an energy audit. That means assessing your home for its energy efficiency shortcomings. Listen to this. The Federal Energy Department says that if you close up all the air leaks and drafts after getting an energy audit on your home, you can save between 5 and 30% on your energy bill. You can do an energy audit on your own, but you really might want to consider getting a professional energy audit. That's what we're going to show you.
First things you would do in an energy audit?
Well, first I would sit down and meet with the homeowner, and we would just talk about their home and what some of the issues are with the home, and kind of determine why they're actually having an energy audit.
And generally, why do people have energy audits?
Typically, I'm finding there are two reasons. One is they want to save money and want to save energy, and the second one is comfort. So they usually, a lot of times people have comfort issues with their home. Drafty areas, hot and cold rooms, and so that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. What's one of the first things, what should we start with? Now you're going to demonstrate what you actually do. So
this is called the blower door test, and one of the big things that we're looking for is the air leakage rate in a home, and every home has its own natural air leakage rate. Most existing homes are above their natural rate. So we're looking at the air leakage rate for the house, and this is a blower door test. I'm just going to turn it on, and what we're determining with this test is actually several things. First and foremost, we're going to determine the amount of cubic feet per minute of air that's blowing out of this house. So we're going to blow air out of the house, and by doing that, it's going to bring air in through the cracks and gaps in the house. So all the air that's coming through the fan is actually outside air. And we will take the cover off and turn the fan on. And there's several things we do before we actually turn this fan on. Make sure the fireplace flue is closed and that there's no ashes in the fireplace. We make sure that the hot water heater is off because we don't want it turning on during this test because it'll backdraft the hot water heater as well as the furnace. So now what I'm doing is I want to bring the house to what minus 50 pascals is the range that we're looking for. And so it's going to get a little loud here. This particular house is not so bad. So we're at a rate of about 3,200 CFM.
What does that mean?
Well, I'll take that number and do a calculation based on the volume of air in the house, its unique position in the world, the number of stories above grade it is, and all the particular characteristics of the house, and do a calculation, and that'll determine the air leakage rate.
Okay, so you were just about to say, so at this point you just have, well, this is on.
Well, this is on. We basically walk around the house and determine where any major air leakage spots are. I'm using the infrared camera today. In order to use this camera, you need a fairly decent temperature range between inside and outside. They recommend 30 degrees, although I think you can do it for less and get a good idea. These cameras are very nice in that they can also determine water leakage areas in walls. You can follow ductwork in walls if you're trying to determine maybe if you have some leakage in your ductwork behind a wall. And just to show you what the image looks like, we're looking at the fan, and this is a heat image, thermographic image. And to give you an idea of the sensitivity of this, oh, sorry.
Okay, so what am I looking at there?
So this is the fan we're actually looking at. And the dark spots are cold. That spot in particular is 63 degrees. The yellow and orange spots are hotter. That's 72 degrees. You can see the cord is 80 degrees. And from a sensitivity standpoint, I just barely touched that, and you can see my handprint. So these are very sensitive cameras, and they're very good at determining where air leakage is. Yeah, so a lot of times homeowners are concerned about whether their doors are leaky. And so if I point the camera at the door with the fan on, you can see that there's leakage occurring just at the threshold, and it's actually starting to fan. The air is fanning out across the floor. You can see it's also coming up along the door. So there's some opportunity there to seal up the base of the door. So if we go, and the other thing is if we look across the room, I don't know if we want this down. If we look across the room, you can start to look into walls and see areas where there's missing insulation. Now this house had foam insulation blown into the walls in the spring, and you can see, you know, that it was pretty effective, but there's areas, you know, these darker areas, there's not as much foam as, say, that area.
The darker orange or the purple?
I'm sorry, the purple. And if you look at the fireplace, you can actually see the fireplace flue angling up to go up to the fireplace. So the other thing we're doing is looking at ductwork and to see what the leakage rate is on the ductwork itself. So we use what's called a pressure pan. This is telling me how leaky the ductwork is. This particular ductwork is not leaky. This goes straight up to the attic. With the pressure gauge, I can tell if the ductwork is half outside is what we call it, or and half inside, or if it's mostly inside, which is what we want, or if it's all the way outside.
If what is all the way outside?
The air leakage rate of the duct itself. And so if it's, you know, if it's a third and above outside, then it needs to be duct sealed, so that, because we don't want to lose that valuable air to the attic. So that's another test that we do. And then there's areas, you know, we walk around and look for, using the back of your hand is a very effective way to look for leakage areas. The other, and so like this spot right here, I mean, I can feel air coming through here just with the back of my hand. And as a matter of fact, I can see down into the basement. So this is the combustion safety testing. This is a health and safety issue, and it's probably the most important part of our testing, in that we're looking to make sure that the furnace and the hot water heater and these combustion appliances, what we call them, are not backdrafting into the house, so dangerous carbon monoxide in the house. Of course, you always hear about some unfortunate accident that occurs every year where people die because of carbon monoxide poisoning. We're also testing the efficiency of the equipment. We're looking at the age of the equipment, and we'll make recommendations based on the testing that we find.
Okay, so I gather that the furnace is one of the most important things.
Yes, the furnace is the most important thing, and this particular house has a tankless hot water heater that the flue is a direct vent out the sidewall. So this doesn't come into play as far as the carbon monoxide and backdrafting. The furnace, the boiler actually, in this case, the flue goes up the old chimney flue. And so this one has a potential for backdrafting. And so what we do is what's called a worst case scenario. So what we do is we use the pressure gauge again. The first test we do is worst case scenario. We're doing before we turn the exhaust fans on, taking a reading, and then after the exhaust fans are on, we take another reading. And there's a range that we're allowed before what's called the combustion appliance zone fails. So we've done that here, and this area, this particular house has no problem with the worst case scenario. It passed. So down in the basement, you know, this is the other part of our testing is now we're looking at insulation levels. We're looking for opportunities to air seal and insulate. In this particular home, this basement is unfinished, so there's actually a lot of opportunity to air seal around what's called the rim, which is where the joists sit on top of the foundation wall all the way around. There's penetrations through it. Over in this corner you can see a pipe going through there. You want to seal these up, and you want to seal the rim up and get it nice and tight. And so this particular home has had some of the sealant's been done. So this is a fire rated foam spray foam sealant. You can tell by the color. There's some white spray foam sealant back there that's not fire rated. And yeah. So now we're going to go up and look into the attic. This particular house has two sections to it, a newer addition and then the old original house. So in the addition, it's cathedral ceilings, so there's no attic to access, but we know what the insulation level is. The attic access is one of the leakiest spots. This particular house, this has this new hatch that's been built specifically for it. It actually drops down, and then it's got a bunch of insulation on it, and it's also weather stripped, so it's pretty efficient. It's very efficient. So you can see, looking up here, that we have a lot of ductwork up here. This house has the air conditioning. I mentioned before, it's a hot water heat. Air conditioning's up in the attic. The attic is considered outside the thermal envelope. The thermal envelope is that line between inside and outside, which is something that we determine with every audit. So in this house, the thermal envelope is actually the ceiling of the second level. We want to make sure that there's insulation at the ceiling level here, because the attic is unconditioned. Okay.
What do you mean by thermal envelope, and why is that important?
So the thermal envelope is basically where your insulation is placed. It's the line between inside and outside, the line between conditioned and unconditioned space. So the attic is an unconditioned space. This second level is conditioned. So our thermal envelope line is this ceiling. So you need to think about your house in all those respects. If you just back up a little bit and look up here on this side, you can see that this is actually a part of the thermal envelope as well, this wall, because it's exposed to this attic on this side. So there's these are the things as an auditor we're going through and making sure that we're identifying where the thermal envelope is.
And the thermal envelope has to be completely tight?
It needs to be airtight and it needs to be insulated. So that's that's the idea. Now, a lot of times houses have storage areas up in their attic, and it's difficult to air seal the storage area, so we'd have to go up there and pull up some of the floor to be able to access those areas that we want to air seal.